Today we're going to take a look at how we can add a level of personalization to our website. Now we're going to be using dynamic content for Elementor, a plugin that has a lot of really cool and very unique features. Today we're going to look at the tokens. Now I'll explain what they are in a moment, but first of all, let me just say that this is a sponsored video. Those lovely people over at Dynamic Content for Elementor reached out to me and asked me would I create a series of 6 videos demonstrating some of the cool features they have in this particular plugin. Well, this is another one of those videos, and if you want to check out all the other videos and the future videos, I'll put a link in the description to the playlist, and I'll also pop that in the corner right now so you can take a look at some of the other things this particular plugin suite can do for you. So you may be asking yourself, what exactly are tokens? Well, they're pretty simple. They're effectively just a short code that allows you to reference various pieces of data. So things like the username when you're logged in, it could be the version of Elementor Pro you're running, lots of useful pieces of information. So in this example, I'm just going to briefly go over how you can use them, some of the things you can do with them, and how we can use these to combine them with various different widgets and so on that you have inside Elementor to make a more focused user experience for anybody that may be logged into your website. So let's just jump over into WordPress now and take a look at just some of the basics and how you use them, and then we'll move on to some more of those advanced sort of topics. So I'm in Elementor. I've already got a page open ready to start working. So the first thing we're going to do is go through the basics of where we find these tokens. Now there are various different places we can use them and reference them. Just to show you the very basics to start off with. So let's go and just do a search for token. You can see we get text editor with tokens. So let's just drag and drop that into our normal page. And you can see it immediately picks up some information. So it says, hello, my logged in username. And you are using Elementor 2.96. So it's picking up some basic information based upon me being logged in and displaying that on screen using some specific shortcodes. If we take a look on the left hand side inside the editor, you can see the shortcodes inside these square brackets. So you can see it says user nice name. So in other words, it's using the nice name that you may have set up. So you could have gone in and configured your profile and set that up to have your first name, your last name, whatever you have. Then we've got you're using Elementor, and it tells us it's an option, Elementor _version. So it's just telling us that's the shortcode for displaying that information. Now this is all pretty cool, but what if we didn't have a username we want to display? We were sort of logged out, but we still want this message to be used. Well, we can also do that. We can use some fallback information to expand these shortcodes. All we need to do is edit the shortcode. So at the moment we've got user nice name. We're just going to put a question mark and we're going to put guest. So we're basically saying that if the username nice name or the user nice name isn't being used, in other words, the person that's viewing the site or the page is not logged in, it'll be replaced with guest. So let me just update this page for you a second, and then we'll take a look at this then inside an incognito window so I can show you what I mean when I'm not logged in. So first of all, let's just preview this now where I am logged in. So we'll click on preview, it'll open up a new tab, and you can see it just pulls in the name that I'm currently using. However, if we go and take a look at this in an incognito window, you'll see it says hello guest because I'm not logged in, so therefore I don't have a username associated with me. So it's very easy to do. So you can use this anywhere on your site you want to personalize things, and if this requires a logged in user, you can easily put those fallback options in. Now, you're not limited to just using this with usernames. You can put fallbacks on almost anything you want to that uses these dynamic shortcode tokens. Now, there are a lot of other things you could do with this. We can reference things like dates. We can even access the WP query. We can go through and pull in terms, author information, a whole range of different things. So, for example, let's just say we wanted to put in there the date that I registered for this particular account. I can just do things like account registered on, put a full colon in, and we'll put the short code in for that. So you can see it's date, user, registered. And it just tells me that this account was registered on November the 5th, 2019. So we could use this data and we can do different things with it. We can also put in things like today's date. Again, another simple thing to do. So we can do today's date is, and we can drop in the short code for this. So all we need to do is specify the date tag inside those square brackets and the format that we want to use. And as you can see, it pulls in the date in this particular format. We can adjust that, set it what we want. We can also do things like expand this by a month, a year, and so on. So you might want to put things like the expiry date based upon when someone registered. You could say your account will expire in 12 months. So you could take this and add a year onto it. There's lots of different things and lots of different reasons you may want to use this kind of function. Now, like I say, this is just scratching the surface of some of the things you can do. If we take a look underneath this area, you can see we've got some basic examples of how things are made up. We've also got how you make sure that you compose your shortcodes. They always have to open and close with a square bracket, and there's a certain way that you actually put them together. So you can see underneath it gives you some examples. We can control the HTML tag that they're placed inside, so you can style it then and reference it however you want. And the fact that it's inside this text editor means that we can use that to visually style things. So we could easily come in and specify we wanted this to be in bold, for example, making sure that you include those opening and closing brackets before you apply any styling. So you can see that puts it into bold. If we go to the Style tab, we can also come in and style the text color for just the token or the actual text itself. So we get a token style, for example, we can just choose a color from there. So we'll say blue, or we'll say red, whatever we kind of want to do. So we'll put this reddish color in there, and you can see that immediately styles those a certain way. We can adjust the typography on there, so if we wanted to make sure that all of our tokens were styled with a heavier font weight, we could do exactly that, so we don't have to worry about styling it directly inside the text editor itself. So you can see the things that you're normally used to are all inside there. But what I would recommend you do is take a look at the documentation for this, because it gives you a lot more examples of the types of things that can be created and how they can be used. So while a lot of the documentation on the dynamic content for Elementor site is a little sparse, the information on the tokens is actually quite good. It gives you an example of how to use it, including generic placeholder situations, the types of content that you can apply to tokens, so post, user, term, options, the WordPress query, system information, date information, ACF, field information, and specific variables. So you can pull this in from the post and get if you're transmitting data. You can see it tells you how to compose your shortcodes and then gives you some examples of how to use them throughout those various different things. So again, post, ACF, and so on. So you could use these inside your dynamic templates as part of Elementor Pro, or if you didn't have Elementor Pro and you still wanted to use the templates, dynamic content for Elementor gives you that functionality as well. So you could use these in a lot of different use cases for various different things. Now, one use case that I want to show you is how we can make forms a little bit more user-friendly for people that are logged into your website. So I've jumped back over into the dashboard. What I'm going to do is I'm going to insert a new widget. We're going to insert a form. So we're going to drop that into our page. Once we've done that, we can now go through and set up various different values, because we have access to these tokens, not just by using that particular widget. We can also access them pretty much anywhere dynamic data can be referenced. So let me just show you what I mean. Now, you may see some graphical glitches on this because I'm running the beta version of Elementor Pro 2.9, I believe it is. So you may see some weird things pop up. These should be fine in the final version of Elementor. You shouldn't have any problems with dynamic content for Elementor once they're all released and in the final stages. So first of all, let's just say we want any logged in user to have their name automatically inserted into the name field. So we can open this up, and what we can do is we can start referencing it. So where we've got things like type and name a placeholder, you see next to label and placeholder, we've got dynamic tags. If we go to advanced, default value and ID both have dynamic tags, so we can use these to our advantage. So let's come over to content first of all. So the label, we can leave that as name, that's fine. The placeholder, we could replace that with name and put in the actual user's name inside there. So let me just say, let's just take this out from there, delete it. What we're going to do is we're going to click on dynamic tags. If we scroll down to the bottom, you'll see under dynamic content, which is a new entry for dynamic content for Elementor when you have that installed, we've got template and we have token. If we select token, you can see that pre-fills it out and we've got the little wrench icon. If we click on that wrench icon, we can now jump into wizard mode, which will help us and take us through the various different things we may want to do, or we can just type in the token that we want to use. We can also do things like return as data. So say required for media controls and other controls you need a structured data. In this example, we're fine. So what we can do is we're going to drop this inside there. We're going to take out that guest at the end, and we're just going to put in name. So what this is going to say is that if I'm logged in, it will show up, as you can see, the nice name. And if I don't have a logged in account, if I'm not logged in, it'll replace that with a placeholder or the label of name, what you normally see. So let's just say, update that a second. And what we're going to do is we're just going to preview this so I can show you what I mean. So now our form says name because we're logged in. However, if we're not logged in and we open up an incognito window, we'll find that that name, that placeholder text, is replaced by just the default fallback value. So if we jump back into our incognito window, you can see name is placed in there. We can still start typing and we can replace that with whatever we want, whether we're logged in or logged out. However, let's just say you wanted the logged in user to have their name in there and be submitted automatically unless it's changed. Well, what you could do is you could come back and you could come into advanced, and from there we could change the default value. And again, we could come down and we can choose token. Click on the little wrench icon and we can drop in that same information. We'll just take out that fallback value because obviously if there's no name in there, there will be nothing to fall back to. So what we've done now is we've said that we want that to be the placeholder, and if there's a value in there, to put the user's name in. So again, let's just update that. We'll hit preview so we can take a look at it. And you can see now my name is pre-filled out in there, which means that I don't have to type that name in. And I could use this with multiple different things. We could reference lots of different data. So you make a much more user-friendly, user-focused way of filling these forms in for anybody that's logged into your website. Now you may be asking yourself, what about if I'm not logged in? Will that just make the placeholder name an active word inside there? Well, let's just open up and you can see that we've got the form. I'm not logged in, so I'm in incognito window, and you can see that name is still just a plain old placeholder. There's no value placed inside there at all. So it's really cool to see that you could easily create pre-filled out forms when a user is logged in. Now let's take that one step further. We've seen how easy it is to use the username, but what about the email address if we're logged in? Because obviously if you're logged in, you have to have an email address associated with your account. Well, you can do that too. Let's click to expand the email. And again, we're going to do the same thing. We're going to change the placeholder. We're going to change that for a dynamic value. Scroll down, choose token. Click on the little wrench icon. And in there, we're just going to do the same thing again. This time, we're going to say user:\email. You can see it pre-fills out my email address. So that first part is all done. Jump over to advanced now, and we do the same thing again. So underneath the default value, we click, drop down, choose token. Click on the little wrench icon and drop in the user email. So now we've got a pre-filled email address that we can use. So let's just update that. Let's just save it. What we can do now is we're going to take a look at preview in that. And as you can see, we've got the name pre-filled and the email address pre-filled out. Now, if we take a look at the incognito version, you'll see we've got name, which is the empty placeholder, but nothing inside the email address. And that's because we didn't set a fallback value. So if you don't set a fallback value, nothing will be in there. So we jump back out of this, go back into our dashboard, and we're going to come back into our content section. And from there, we're going to expand our token out, and we're just going to put in question mark at the end of it. And we're going to just say your email. So we'll just close that down, update, and we'll just open back up our incognito window. We'll refresh this, and you'll see it now pre-fills that out with your email, ready for us to drop our email address in there. So we can use those fallback values, we can use pre-filled out values, we can place these pretty much anywhere inside this form or anywhere we can reference this dynamic data. So it's really cool to see that we now have that extra set of data values that we can pull in just simply by using the dynamic options inside pretty much any widget that can reference dynamic data. Okay, so let's take a look at another slightly more complex example. Now, I've created a custom field set of meta fields, all to do with vehicles. I've added another field in there, which is a file field, which is for a PDF that you want to upload alongside the vehicle so a user could download those specifications. Now, we may want to sort of put that data out there alongside a few other things. So with that file in place and knowing what the name of the file field is inside ACF, I can reference that data inside my template. Come back into my template setup, and you can see this is all the details for a specific vehicle. This is just a template now that's for the single post for vehicles. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to put information about that particular PDF inside here, and we're going to reference that dynamic data. So we're going to do the same thing as we did before. We're going to come over and we're going to do a search for token. I'm going to drag and drop that underneath the specifications. Now we're going to take out the default information that's inside there, and what we're going to do is we're going to build up some extra details. So the first thing I want to do is put in the link or the name of the actual file itself. We're going to reference that details or those details. So what we can do is we can build this up. So we can put open brackets ACF to reference an ACF something. Going to put the full colon as the separator between the two, and then we're going to put the name of that field in that contains the file. So for this example, I've called that PDF, and we're going to close that bracket. And you can see that now immediately pulls in the link to that particular location, that particular file that's been uploaded alongside this particular vehicle. Now, what I want to do alongside that is say who exactly uploaded it. So we're going to do uploaded by. We're going to put a colon afterwards. So what we're saying is we're going to specify who uploaded this. So who's the author of this particular post? And again, we can do the same kind of thing here. So we're going to open those brackets. We're not going to use ACF this time because we're actually going to use the actual author of this particular post. So we're going to start this off with author. We're going to put the full colon in there. And then we're going to simply put in how we're going to find that author. So we're going to say display _ name and close those brackets out. So you can see this particular post was uploaded by Billy Bob, who's that particular user for this. So what we could do now is we could come into the styling and we come into the token style, and again, like we did before, we could set these to be red and we can change the weight so they'll stand out a little better. So easy. Change the weight on there to something like 600. So we've referenced those pieces of information, dynamically pulling that data in. And now every time a PDF is uploaded by the actual author of this particular post, we'll see that on the front end of the site. So we can use these tokens for lots and lots of different reasons. So I'd highly encourage you that if you're interested in seeing how you could use these, to check out that documentation. I'll put a link in the description below alongside a link to this particular plugin. Take a look at it, because I think with a little bit of creativity, getting your head around how these work, you really could start to create very useful dynamic pre-filled out forms, data that's being pulled in without having to rely upon lots of different plugins to do various different things. You can use this and just reference all of that data that's available to you inside WordPress, advanced custom fields, and various other aspects and parts of your site structure. So now we've seen how to grab those values, let's take a little look at how we could actually use those inside a real world scenario. So let's just get rid of this completely. And we're going to say we want to put a button in. So we're going to simply come over, we're going to search for button and drag and drop that into our design. So the first thing we're going to do is change the name of this. So we're going to say download PDF. So we know that that's going to be downloading a PDF. We're going to come in and we're going to choose the link options. We're going to click on dynamic tags though. So once we click on that, we're going to come down and choose our token. From there, we can do a couple of different things. We can click on the little wrench icon and we can just drop in the token if we want to. However, let's just say you're not really comfortable with handwriting these. How could we go about doing it in a much simpler fashion? Well, this is where you could use the wizard mode. Click and you can see that now opens up a ton of new options. We've got the different types of objects. So like I said earlier on in the video, we can reference posts, users, terms, options, the WordPress query, dates, system files or system information, and ACF. For this example, we want ACF. So we're going to click on that. That will now open up the options for the ACF section. So what's the field name we want to reference? We're going to click on that. We're going to click and we're going to start typing in PDF. Now you'll notice this is where one of those little glitches that I said happens. That just disappears now and pops up the top. It still works, but there's a bit of a weird glitch. And like I say, I'm not sure if this is the plugin and the beta version of Elementor Pro 2.9. More than likely, that's what's causing this. But it's something to bear in mind. It still all works perfectly. There's just a bit of a weird graphical glitch going on. Click on PDF, and we now have that link inside there. So we've got everything configured the way that we want it to be configured. And that's just by using the wizard. So if we hit update on there, come back in and we'll refresh our page. There's our download PDF, and that's all pre-filled out now with the relevant data. So if we click on there, that'll open up the new PDF download and we can see exactly what's going on, all being referenced inside this particular section. So we can, if we want to, just use these in a multitude of different ways, and the actual sort of wizard just makes the whole process super easy. So let's just take a look at that wizard again and just see some of the options that are available. So you can click to open up the link, and if we come over to post, for example, you can see we can reference the meta key or field name. We can click in there and we can search for that data. The source, We've got how we want to deal with things. We can trim the information. If we come over to users, you can see we can do the same kind of thing in there. Terms, we're just searching for different kinds of terms. We've got a whole range of different things, and the wizard should make your life a lot easier, like I say, if you're not used to working with the code aspect of it. However, I wanted to demonstrate both methods of using this. But because we now have access to those tokens, we can use those right across the board inside Elementor Pro pretty much any way we can reference dynamic data or dynamic tags. So it's a super powerful way of being able to open up a whole world of different things we can do inside our websites. And that's basically what I wanted to show you in this video. So that's the basics of how we use tokens inside Elementor Pro. This is one of those features that I think really opens up a level of personalization and great ways in which you can tap into more of that dynamic data that we can create throughout our entire site. Well, what do you think of this? Could you see uses for this yourself, or have you used it in the past? As always, drop your comments in the comment section below and let me know how you use this or how you see yourself using it in the future. As always, all the applicable links are in the description below. It is an affiliate link, but it costs you no more money. And if you use that to purchase your copy of dynamic content for Elementor, it gives a small percentage back to the channel and helps support what we do around here. As always, my name has been Paul C. This has been WPTuts, and until next time, take care.